Making headlines this hour. President endorses a preferential voting system aimed at concluding presidential elections in a single round. President reaffirms MNDF's vital role in safeguarding the nation amid a changing global landscape. And Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Halil has moved to distance the Maldives from the United Nations General Assembly resolution on cooperation between the UN and the Council of Europe, insisting it has no bearing on the island nation.
And now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz has formally endorsed the adoption of a preferential voting system for presidential elections, proposing a single-round process designed to eliminate the need for runoffs. His announcement, shared via his newly established WhatsApp channel, underscores his commitment to electoral reform and direct communication with the public. In his statement, President Dr. Muiz described preferential voting as the model he champions for future elections. This system would allow voters to rank candidates in order of preference, ensuring a winner is determined without requiring a second round of voting. This proposal marks a significant departure from the current electoral framework, which mandates that a candidate must secure more than 50% of votes in the first round to avoid runoff. Since the Maldives adopted the presidential system, every election has proceeded to a second round due to the absence of a first-round majority. The initiative has garnered support from former President Mohammad Nasheed, who publicly endorsed the proposal in a statement shared on social media. Preferential voting systems are already in use in several major democracies, including the United States and the United Kingdom, where voters rank multiple candidates instead of selecting a single contender. The Elections Commission of Maldives, ECM, has previously highlighted the financial burden associated with conducting 2 rounds of presidential elections. In addition to advocating for preferential voting, President Dr. Muiz has proposed synchronizing presidential and parliamentary elections as a measure to optimize resource and improve governance efficiency. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz has issued a powerful affirmation of the Maldives National Defense Force, MNDF, highlighting its enduring mandate to uphold the nation's peace, dignity, and sovereignty amidst the complexities of a shifting global environment. Marking the MNDF's 133rd anniversary, the President lauded its pivotal contribution to preserving the Maldives' status as a unified, independent state.
President Dr. Muiz underscored that the nation's enduring independence is the direct outcome of the sacrifices of those who have tirelessly defended its sovereignty and cohesion. He acknowledged the MNDF's unwavering dedication in safeguarding the homeland and maintaining national security. The President further commended MNDF personnel for consistently placing national interests above personal welfare, stepping forward with resolve during times of crisis. He expressed his confidence that the nation's sovereignty will remain secure as long as this steadfast commitment endures. In celebratory remarks shared via his official X account, President Dr. Muiz highlighted that every accomplishment of the Maldivian people is rooted in the nation's uninterrupted independence. He attributed this enduring freedom to the passion, sacrifice, and resolute determination of the MNDF. The President also extended gratitude to MNDF for its invaluable role in securing the Maldives' existence as a sovereign state, acknowledging its sacrifices in upholding national unity. He affirmed that the military's proactive engagement in facing challenges continues to ensure the welfare of the Maldivian people. President Dr. Muiz expressed confidence that as long as the spirit of independence resonates within the Maldivian military, the nation's sovereignty will remain unassailable. He reiterated that the nation's progress and achievements rest upon its status as an independent state, sustained by the devotion and sacrifice of MNDF.
Mohammad Ghassan Mamoon, the Minister of Defense, has conveyed his gratitude to President Dr. Mohammad Muiz for his decisive leadership in strengthening the Maldives National Defense Force (MNDF) through targeted investments and institutional reforms designed to fortify national security. In a message marking the 133rd anniversary of the Maldivian military, Minister Ghassan commended the President's commitment to modernizing the armed forces, extending greetings to the Commander-in-Chief, senior military leadership, personnel, and their families. He underscored the administration's ongoing initiatives to enhance defense readiness. The President's administration has placed particular emphasis on empowering the armed forces and advancing self-reliance in national security affairs. It is also actively executing targeted measures to modernize military capabilities, reinforcing operational strength and strategic preparedness. A major milestone in these efforts is the establishment of the MNDF Air Corps, the first aerial division in the country's history. The government asserts that the new unit will significantly enhance maritime surveillance, providing more effective oversight of the country's vast territorial waters. The administration continues to channel resources into defense expansion, aiming to bolster the MNDF strategic capabilities in response to evolving security challenges. Officials maintain that these initiatives will reinforce the nation's ability to safeguard sovereignty and national interests with greater autonomy. Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdullah Khalil has moved to distance the Maldives from the United Nations UN General Assembly resolution on cooperation between the UN and the Council of Europe, insisting that it has no bearing on the island nation. Minister Dr. Khalil's comments were in response to a local media report suggesting that Maldives had voted in favor of a UN resolution on religious freedom. In a post on X, the minister clarified that the resolution, first moved in 2000, has since been renewed every year since 2004. He also expressed that this resolution is one on cooperation between the UN and the Council of Europe in various fields, adding that all Maldivian governments have been in support of this resolution, as it has no direct relevance to the Maldives. The minister also pointed out that Maldives would continue to submit formal reservations to any resolutions that are legally binding if they are in direct contradiction to its religious and cultural beliefs. Minister Dr. Khalil also urged local media outlets against spreading misinformation which would lead to confusion and misunderstandings among the public. President Dr. Mohammad Muiz has launched an official WhatsApp channel to share important government information and key updates. Announcing the creation of the channel on social media, the President invited all citizens to join the channel, noting that daily updates, important information, and messages would be shared via the channel. The initiative is part of broader efforts to improve transparency and public engagement. The President has been undertaking several initiatives to provide the people with the latest government information, including launching a podcast titled With the People, where he answers citizens' questions and shares government policies and plans. The President has also been actively visiting islands to engage with residents and gather feedback on planned and ongoing development projects. The President has also launched a special program titled AHA to provide detailed updates on the work being done by government ministries and share questions and concerns of the people regarding the work of these ministries. The public's questions are answered by cabinet ministers, and the President also participates in some episodes. In his most recent podcast, the President said the government will give special priority to providing information to the people. He noted that information is now being shared across various platforms and announced his intention to launch a youth-focused podcast similar to With the People in the near future. The president is also scheduled to meet with journalists on May 3rd, which is celebrated as International Press Freedom Day. The president said that the press conference will allow journalists the opportunity to ask any questions they wish. International analysts have described President Dr. Mohammad Muizz's decision to ban Israeli passport holders from entering the Maldives as a bold move, showing a leadership rarely witnessed among world leaders.
The Maldives government banned the entry of Israeli passport holders over the ongoing genocide in Gaza, Palestine, where thousands of innocent lives are being taken mercilessly. People from across the world have been commending President Dr. Muizz for ratifying the decision and for standing up against the inhuman atrocities committed by the Israelis against the Palestinian people. A social media channel that reports in-depth analysis on the Gaza crisis, Insporevela, has produced a detailed video on the significance of the Maldives' decision. In the video, the analyst noted that the Maldivian government's decision to ban Israeli passport was one that the world cannot ignore, and described the move as a moral stance and not just a political gesture, as reflected by the President's office's official statement on the matter. Further noting that the Maldives was heavily reliant on tourism, the report noted that the Maldives' decision was a clear and powerful message given to the world on standing up boldly against the ongoing atrocities against the Palestinian people. The analyst also noted that Maldives' message was not masked by diplomatic rhetoric, trade deals, diplomatic pressure, or global alliances. The video pointed out that Maldives took action against Israel at a time when the world's attention has been focused on the recent escalation in atrocities against the Gaza Strip. While many world leaders do not dare to speak out against Israeli atrocities, and while others are complicit, the Maldives acted differently by siding with the oppressed, the video noted, adding that the decision was not a random shift in policy but a direct reaction to the recent events in Gaza. The video further noted while the Maldives is a country that thrives on tourism, the Maldives took action against Israel while being fully aware of the threat of economic hardship. This also shows justice, equality and adherence to principles matter more to President Muizz's government than financial gain and tourism numbers. The analysis also noted that a country with limited military power and international influence like the Maldives had not hesitated to stand up to violence and injustice. They questioned what excuse the powerful countries have today for failing to stand up against Israel's atrocities. Some point out that the Maldives' decision will also cause complications for the Israeli government. Analysts say that while Israel can turn a deaf ear to the protesters in Europe and around the world, the Maldives' move against them will affect them, as it's a decision taken by a government policy of a sovereign nation. Experts point out that the Maldives' move is not just a gesture for the Palestinian people, but a sign that they are not alone and that there are still nations, regardless of size, who will stand up and rise for justice. The move is also a challenge for the rest of the world to reflect on their silence and consider taking a principled stand. Some believe the Maldives' move will put more pressure on countries that have stayed silent on the Gaza issue. While the Maldives' actions present a choice whether to remain silent or take action, the Maldives' decision to close its doors to Israelis have opened the eyes of the world, it said.
Minister of Economic Development and Trade Mohammed Saeed has confirmed that bunkering services will continue uninterrupted and that work is ongoing to expand port infrastructure in the north. Speaking at a press conference at the President's office, Minister Saeed shared updates on key projects under the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade. He noted that international bunkering services were launched in Ihavan Dipolu in September last year with an investment of $15 to $20 million by the government. The service is operated by State Trading Organization, STO, on the bunkering front. The minister said services are continuing and development is underway on a dedicated port in the north to further expand operations. He said an off-port area has been established and while they began without a formal port, construction is now underway. With the appointed company, Minister said that while STO provides bunkering services, detailed revenue figures remain with the company, but he confirmed that the income generated is significant. He also revealed that a new law on international banking is being drafted and work is ongoing to enable better access to financial support for banking service providers. The two vessels currently operated by Stock are carrying approximately 4,000 tons of oil, marking a strong start to the country's energy and trade service expansion. Maldives' tourism sector continues to thrive with a notable increase in both visitor numbers and state revenue.
According to the Ministry of Tourism, 764,229 tourists visited the country as of April 19th this year, a 7.3% increase compared to 712,500 during the same period last year. In just this month alone, 131,811 tourists arrived in Maldives, up from 21.5% from 108,496 recorded in the same period last year. The ministry notes that currently over 7,000 tourists are arriving daily. This steady influx is having a direct impact on national revenue. The Ministry of Finance and Development Planning reports that in February and March alone, the government earned 3.3 billion rupiah through tourism-related taxes, a 12.4% increase compared to the same period last year. Breakdown of tourism-related tax revenue includes 3.5 billion rupiah from tourism goods and service tax, 556.9 million rupiah from green tax, 435.8 million from departure tax, 437.1 million from airport development fee. When it comes to accommodation, 70.1% of tourists stayed in resorts, 24.4% in guest houses, 3% in hotels, and 2.5% chose safari lodges. Over 200,000 tourists have visited the country in the first 3 months of 2025. The government has set a target of attracting 2.3 million tourists by the end of the year.
The Ministry of Social and Family Development has opened a child care facility. According to the ministry, such child care spaces in offices or workspace play a critical role in helping working parents, particularly female employees, to balance their workplace and family life and improve their overall mental well-being. The ministry said these spaces will enable staff to focus on their work, bringing the peace of mind that their children are in safe hands in close proximity. They said this initiative is expected to improve the mental health of the employees, enhance their productivity, and encourage them to attend work consistently. Further speaking on the importance of such facilities, the ministry said this fosters a greater sense of engagement and comfort within the workplace environment, emphasizing that providing such facilities can significantly increase job satisfaction. The ministry said that such spaces are powerful tools for employers to recruit and retain the best employees. Tariff uncertainty continued to weigh on Asian markets, with Japan's Nikkei ending in the red and South Korea's market posting gains. Japan's Nikkei 225 index closed down 450.36 points at 34,279.92 as a stronger yen weighed on exporters. In South Korea, the benchmark Korea Composite Stock Price Index, KOSPI, closed up 0.20% at 2,488.42. South Korea and the U.S. are due to hold trade talks this week. While U.S. President Donald Trump has paused some of the hefty levies on imports, the U.S. is also locked in a trade battle with China, the world's second largest economy, which has sent global markets into a tailspin. A UN official says officials will discuss major steps to restore support for Syria from the World Bank and International Monetary Fund at spring meetings next week. Those sanctions remain a major obstacle to rebuilding the country.
Abdullah Dardari, Assistant Secretary General for the UN Development Programme, told Reuters in Damascus that a roundtable on Syria hosted by Saudi government and World Bank would take place on the sidelines of the annual meetings of the international financial bodies in Washington. Reuters reported last week that Saudi Arabia plans to pay off around $15 million in Syrian areas to the World Bank, paving the way for millions of dollars in possible grants for reconstruction and other economic support to Syria. Sources have since told Reuters that the Saudis made the payments. Dardari told Reuters that payoff would allow the World Bank to support Syria through its International Development Association, which provides funds for low-income countries. Since former Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad was toppled last year after a nearly 14-year civil war, his successors have called on the international community to lift sanctions imposed against the country during his rule. So far, most of those sanctions remain in place, with the United States and other Western countries saying the new authorities still need to demonstrate a commitment to peaceful and inclusive rule. Syria has $563 million in special drawing rights (SDRs) at the IMF. But using the funds requires approval by IMF members holding 85% of the total votes, giving the United States with 16.5% of the votes an effective veto. Syria's finance minister, central bank governor and foreign minister are planning on attending the spring meetings next week, Reuters reported earlier this month. It would be the first visit to the meetings by a high-level Syrian government delegation in at least 2 decades, and the first high-level visit by Syria's new authorities to the US after Assad's fall. Reuters reported last month that Washington has handed Syria a list of conditions which, if fulfilled, could lead to some sanction relief. Dardari said that sanctions remained a considerable obstacle to Syria's growth trajectory. Dardari said UNDP had secured a sanctions exemption from the US Treasury to mobilize up to $50 million to repair the Deir Ali power plant south of Damascus. 3 sources familiar with the issue told Reuters the World Bank is exploring hundreds of millions of dollars in grants to improve Syria's electricity grid and support the public sector. Syria's central bank governor Abdel Husrey told Reuters that his country wanted to be compliant with global financial standards, but that sanctions were still blocking the economy from going forward.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he had instructed the military to intensify pressure on Hamas after the Palestinian militant group this week rejected an Israeli proposal for another temporary truce, instead demanding a deal to end the war in exchange for the release of hostages.
In a late-night televised address, Netanyahu said that while war came with a heavy price, Israel had no choice but to continue fighting. Egyptian mediators have been working to restore the ceasefire, which Israel abandoned last month after seeking to extend a temporary truce that had seen 38 hostages released. Hamas, whose militants carried out the October 7, 2023 attack on Israel that triggered the war, has said it would only free the remaining hostages under a deal that ends the war. Israel has pounded Gaza with airstrikes since the ceasefire collapsed. Palestinian health authorities said at least 50 Palestinians had been killed in strikes on Saturday alone. 59 hostages are still held in Gaza. Fewer than half of them are believed to be still alive. Israel put Gaza under a total blockade in March and restarted its assault on March 18th after talks failed to extend the ceasefire. Hamas says it will free remaining hostages only under an agreement that permanently ends the war. Israel says it will agree only to a temporary pause. In his televised address, Netanyahu said he was committed to preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons.
That's all the news we have for today. We will be back with any further updates. Until then, I'm Abdullah Ahil from PSM News.
ರಾಜ್ಯಗ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಆಮು ಬಲಿತಕಕ್ಕೆ ಕೊಬ ಬಲಿ ಜೆಹಿಫೋರಿ ಕನ್ವಾ ಮಿ ಹುರಿಯಾ ಸುವಾಲಿಗೆ ಜವಾಬ್ ಹೋದುಮಾ